Yeah. Stump the chump. When do you tell your kids about adoption? Scott.
Oh,
How'd this come to light in our office?
well, that's a call that I get regularly, or anytime I'm retained in an adoption case. The clients will always ask, should I tell them, or should I not tell them, or if I do, when is the best time, and are there resources out there to help me?
Mm-hmm. And as a child and adolescent psychotherapist, when should you tell their child they're adopted?
Yeah, well, I'm picking up on what you just said. When an adoptive parent has this question, should I tell them? How do I tell them? I like to explore with them what their fears are, because sometimes there is something in their history that may make it difficult for them. For you and I, Scott, we're like, that's a no-brainer.
Right.
You tell them immediately.
As soon as possible.
On the developmental level.
Even while they're in diapers, you can start that early.
Exactly. And what we see now, I guess people used to get away with it back in the day before the internet.
Right.
Right. So now that we have, we're global, it is not hard to find your birth family and so many avenues. So I always feel for people who are asking the questions, and I want to start with where they are, but I want to end up with, but this is why we have to do this, and help them understand this is how we do this. So, we all have horror stories of people finding out later in life that they were adopted, and it's the first person they're going to be angry at, or the first people they're going to be angry with, is going to be the people who did not tell them their truth about where they came from and who they are.
The ones that knew about it and didn't tell.
Exactly. And I will tell you that I have children that will be adopted at later ages, like middle school, high school, later ages, and they deal with so much. If there's biological children in the home already, they deal with, I am different from you. I'm always going to be different from you, and that's a journey that they have to take, and they need help and support with that. But for our little ones, it may never cross their mind, but if they have an older sibling, there's biological children that are older, and these children are taught to keep this a secret from this new child that's entered the family, it suggests that something is wrong with them.
Right.
That their story is somehow not decent or not proper, or they are flawed. And I think when we lie to children about anything, we're complete, we're just doing a no-no. But about how we got here and our journey as a person, and as we flow from one family to maybe foster care to being a permanent family member, we're lying to them about the most basic thing about who they are.
Yeah, if you don't include them in that loop to begin with the siblings, you're basically setting them up to pull their entire life out from under them later in life.
Exactly.
And that trust issue I discovered is when they wait to break it to somebody at 10 or 11 years old, the first reaction of that child is, well, what else are you lying to me about? If you lied to me about something this important and kept it a secret, what else are we lying about in this family?
And what was so bad about me and my first family that I had to be lied to about it? And you're exactly right, Bob. What else could you possibly? Who is anybody in this family?
And who else knows about this other than me? Did everyone know about this but me?
Yeah, and you know what? Big Love knows he's adopted, and that's just part of it, isn't it, Mr. Love? But anyway, or photo bombing, you've had success stories, close to you of parents that actually told their kid on the way home from the hospital, and as they grew older, you might mention about that. They were just so open, and the child got older.
Right. So my very best friend, who has a PhD in psychiatric nursing, and she and her husband adopted a little boy from birth. I think he had to be in a foster home for maybe a week before they could get him. I think one of the parents was underage, and there were some legalities that had to be done before. And this was one of those ICPCs, so we're crossing state lines. So it was a little more difficult to get him home without avoiding a 7-day stay in foster care.
Or getting a criminal charge for child trafficking if
Yeah,
you didn't
when
go through ICPC.
They did it the right way.
That's right.
ICPC stands for the Interstate Compact regarding the placement of children.
Yeah.
Yes.
And we do that, but it's, you're right. It's going to take a week and sometimes longer.
Mm-hmm. So they are bringing him home from the hospital, and so they have to drive out of state to go get him. And part of their story, and part of this he's a young man now, part of his story is that they forgot when they were so excited that when they were backing out of the garage, they forgot to put the garage door up. So the first thing was a crash into the garage door, and because they were so excited to go get him. And so when you would ask, when he was a child, he's my godson, and so when you ask him as a child, how did you get here? That would be a question I would ask him. How did you get here? And first, Daddy backed a car into garage door to come and get me because they were so excited, right?
Yeah.
And so he lived a whole life of it being acceptable and welcomed, and they always encouraged him. This is where I think the genius of this was. At every developmental stage, they would say, if you ever want to find out about your first family, your birth family, we will help you. So they took that out of secrecy, and they opened the door to let him come to them, so he didn't have to sit there and worry with, well, I want to find my birth family, but I'm afraid it's going to hurt my family if I do that. And so he was free of that.
Yeah.
And so he was able to, one day, as a 20-something-year-old, say, what's wrong with you? You are my family. You've always been my family. Why would I want to find anybody else? So it was that. And they were cool either way. They were going to be cool trying to find the birth family, or they were going to be cool with him not trying to find the birth family.
Right, yeah. Well, later on, I think we need to talk about a little bit, what does it say about you as an adoptive parent that you do not want that known? Because sometimes I found that some of the parents are just insecure, and we may talk about how to deal with that insecurity. If I tell them they're adopted and they want to find their parent, they're going to love me less. And why don't we talk about that at a future date sometime?
Yeah.
Anyway, Scott and my sweet woman, thank you so much for allowing us to stump the chump with Scott's question. That's a live question that came in this week to Scott. When to tell your parent or child they're adopted. Thank you. Say bye.
Bye.
Bye.